YouTube, I'm Ty from the Gaming Helm, and today is none other than Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2015. You know what, back at my old school, we used to call these Sweetigrams. They're just little, cinnamon hearts. And today, continuing with the Vintage Episode series, I'm going to do what we used to call a dual review, 2 games in 1. The first up was probably the best game of its particular franchise, and also one of its most unique games of this franchise. I am, of course, talking about the center boy, the big daddy of Sega, Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay? Been around since the Genesis days, and every so often, he even on today's generation consoles, he even still shows up in games. This franchise has had its ups and its downs, so I think it's best just to concentrate on the good days. And what better way to describe the good days to all of you than focusing on the greatest Sonic the Hedgehog game of all time, which made its debut on the Dreamcast. Short-lived on the Dreamcast, but eventually made its way over onto the GameCube. Sonic Adventure. And the second game we're going to be taking a look at the second half of this little breakdown of a legendary icon would be none other than Shadow the Hedgehog. The game, not the character, but both. What the hell ever, you get the point! Alright, the kingpin of the entire franchise, Sonic Adventure, was so different, so amazing. It was like a complete reboot, but at the same time canon toward the original lore. It was just amazing. First of all, it wasn't just a mindless stage after stage after stage level jumping game like it used to be. No, it used to have what you would call free roaming. You know, it was like an open sandbox, and it gave you the chance to explore outside of the obvious stages. It wasn't so linear. You can find little tidbits and nuggets of information, little Easter eggs, whatever. Plus, on top of that, it wasn't just a simple side-scroller. As you can see, it was like a third person over the shoulder, or rather right in front of Sonic's blue spiky ass, perspective. Yeah, it was just so different. Plus, on top of that, it had a story. Most of the games that came before it didn't have any story. It was just make it to one end of the level and to the other. There's a big fat guy in a floating orb that carrying is hauling his fat ass around. Kill him. Well, you never kill him, but beat him because he's trying to kill you. That's the end of the story. There's story, and it's a really it's not so much in depth, but it's really creative, especially since all the previous games before it never really had any story to speak of. It really gave the fans of the franchise, like myself, who have been playing since the beginning, just something new that we desperately needed. It wasn't just a simple point A to B game anymore. No, there was more to it than that. Gave it some serious character, which works for me because apart from playing the old games, I used to watch the old cartoon, I used to read the original comics, and they were pretty good, I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, they're pretty easy to find these days, but there's like 3 different versions of the same story. Which one do you pick, right? So back in my day, there was just the one. You get to stick with it, and it was just a lot of enjoyment. This game also had a bunch of your favorite characters in it. It gives you the chance to explore not just Sonic's game, but Tails, Knuckles, Amy, a robot named, I think it was Gamma, not to mention this big fat cat that looks like a crossbreed between Chewbacca and Simba. Yeah, seriously, it happened. Not to mention, after you beat everyone's game, you get a special hidden chapter called Super Sonic. Gee, I wonder what happens then. Oh, Sonic just turns into the biggest ripoff ever. Super Saiyan lookalike. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe his blue fur turns gold, and you can say, well, that's not a ripoff, but yeah, his hair getting spiked upward, and the golden shield around him. I'm sorry, that's a Super Saiyan ripoff if there ever was one. The game has a wide variety of areas, and every single level is unique in its own design, and it just really comes together smooth. The pacing's great, the action's intense, but at the same time it's not so non-stop where you need to take a breather. Nah, it's really put together so well, so flawlessly. Like I said, this is one of those vintage games that I'm proud to do a review on because even after all these years of its original release, I still find myself playing it, and it's still enjoyable. That tells me this game did something right. This was the game for all Sonic fans, the best one of the series, and I challenge anyone to dare say different. Straight up. And of course, moving on to our next half of the segment, Sonic, as we all know, has an evil rival. But is he really evil? well, as far as evil twin cliches go, Shadow is not what you would call the carbon-based copy that everyone thought should have been. Sure, he looks like Sonic, he's just as strong and fast like Sonic, and he uses a gun, and during the midst of an alien invasion, he has to choose whose side he's on, interrupting his quest for discovering his true identity thanks to amnesia. You get to decide throughout this game whether or not to team up with Sonic and all his friends to protect the world, or maybe try to conquer it. In your quest to find out the truth about yourself, Shadow the Hedgehog was originally created to be the ultimate weapon. Hey, look at that. Oh my god, he'll drill Sonic in the back of the head. He's evil. Or is he? Shadow is actually a pretty complex character. He was originally created to become the ultimate life form. And who put him together, you might ask? As some sort of organic cyborg freak of nature? None other than Robotnik, or Eggman's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. Yeah, you see, Robotnik's not just a name, it is legit. People seem to think that Robotnik was a nickname. No, see, Gerald Robotnik. There you go. That's his actual name. Eggman, that's the nickname. Throughout the course of this game, you decide, in every single level, do you complete good guy objectives or bad guy objectives? And collectively, it all adds up to a whole. The more good things you do, the more aligned with the good guys you are. The more evil stuff you do, the more evil you become. Or if you want, you can find like a medium, be a more or less neutral anti-hero, then just taking on, just one particular side. You can be sort of neutral in the whole thing. But ultimately, it's really well put together. The game is fun, fast-paced, and unlike Sonic, Shadow also has a bunch of unique powers that Sonic does not have, because since he, like I said, Shadow was supposed to be created as the ultimate life form, therefore he has a unique connection to the Chaos Emeralds. He can actually tap into their infinite power. For example, if he comes within close proximity to one, or actually were to literally hold on to one, he can use Chaos Control, which instantly teleports him from one spot to another, regardless of how far the distance is. He can go anywhere, instantaneously around the world, effectively making him faster than Sonic. Also, he can also gather up the power of the Chaos Emeralds and use Chaos Blast, like a huge shockwave of energy, just a fraction of the Chaos Emerald's energy, just forced outward into an explosion. So that makes him unique over Sonic. But overall, Sonic and Shadow faced off a couple of times over the years, and there was never really a definitive winner, more or less just a stalemate or a draw at best. Maybe one day they'll finally settle this old grudge match, but you know what? I didn't like the fact that Shadow was introduced to replace Knuckles, Sonic's original, rival. Knuckles, the Echidna, guardian of the floating isle, one of the most important characters of the entire Sonic lore, is suddenly shelved, just sidelined, just for the sake of introducing this new guy. And they only really, in later years, have kept Knuckles around just strictly for fan service to keep players of the original game, like myself, happy. But still, I mean, there's more to him than that. I didn't really think it was necessary to, boot Knuckles over to make room for Shadow. That's plenty for all. I mean, come on, people. Let's try and be fair about it. Still a great game, and has, literally, I think, a dozen endings. That's like a lot of options for you as a player, so it gives you a chance for replays. So many more replays. Awesome game. Why does he skate? Yep. And that about does it for today's segment of the Gaming Helm. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm just going to get straight to it, cut to the chase, the rating system. Sonic Adventures. You know what? Dated as it may be, it is several generations old now, and still is incredible to play. Well done. Because the graphics have improved so much over the years since that game, even in the later Sonic games, you can definitely see the difference. Still, you know what? Because it's a great game, you can't fault it for its age. It's still vintage. So I give Sonic Adventure 9 out of 10. Shadow the Hedgehog, because of the multiple endings, makes it kind of confusing for you, the fan, to find out whether or not which ending is canon, which ending they're going to go with in future games. Still enjoyable. A darker look at a very mysterious character, not to mention bringing a little bit more of an adult perspective to usually a kid-friendly genre. I want to say 7.5 out of 10. It's nothing compared to Sonic Adventure, but still a great game. Even all these years later, 7.5 out of 10 for sure. And like I just said a second ago, the problem is with the Sonic franchise, there's no consistency. Sonic Adventure had a great story. Sonic the Hedgehog, which was the first Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 title, it had a very adult aspect to it. Really darker, more older, pleasing type of story. I mean, hell, spoiler alert, Sonic dies in that game. So that's a dark ending. But then they have all these other games that come out after it that are really kid-friendly, like Sonic the Black Knight. Even, what else? The Magic Rings and all that stuff. And even Sonic Heroes. Those games were really, made me go, really? I don't think I should play. This is too young for me. So it just goes back and forth between dark, kid-friendly, adult-friendly, happy-go-lucky. It's just there's really no consistency in this series. I hope, because I'm still a huge fan of the genre, maybe in time they'll get something like a middle ground where there'll be consistency. But for the time being, they just bounce back and forth. The most recent title in the entire genre came out not so long ago, Sonic Generations. That game was fan service because you get to go through the older levels with current day graphics, and you can either choose between past Sonic or current Sonic because it's got to deal with time travel. But I digress. That's not the point. That game itself was also pretty kidly friendly, you know? I mean, granted, it's nostalgia for me, but still, come on. You could have done a little bit better with the story on that. Anyway, so that about wraps it up for this exciting segment of the Gaming Helm. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Happy Valentine's Day, people. Take care.